Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to our daily meditation session with Kyra Jewel Lingo, who's still kindly sitting in for Martin. As far as we know, he's still recovering from his coronavirus illness. So, yeah, wishing him all the best. And Kyra Jewel will be here at least until the end of the week. Great to have you all here again. Great to see you all logging in the sidebar. And please do continue to say hello as you do every morning. It just creates a really lovely feel of community for us all. So we're here for the next hour, starting with 10 or 15 minutes of reflection. We'll then be going into a guided meditation. And as ever, we'll be finishing off with a chance for you to ask questions to Kyra Jewel about the meditation or your practice, whatever's coming up for you today. So if you would like to ask a question, if you'd like to come on screen, feel free to let me know about that. Just write a message in the sidebar to say that you'd like to come on, and I can bring you on and you can have a bit more of a conversation with Kyra Jewel. Alternatively, you can put your question in writing. If you look under the video screen there, you'll see it says ask a question. So just click on that and you can put your question in there rather than putting it in the sidebar where it will probably disappear quite quickly, because as you can see, the messages are constantly moving in the sidebar. And before we start, I'd also just like to mention donations. We're bringing these freely offered sessions to you Monday to Friday at the moment. And we're so glad to be of service during this really difficult time. But in order to continue doing that, we have to meet the expenses that this generates for us, the ongoing costs, which are quite substantial. And the only way we can meet them is through your contributions. So if you are able to give anything, whether it's large amount, a small amount, just a one-off contribution today, or whether you're able to give on an ongoing basis, we would be really, really grateful. It also goes towards supporting Kyra Jewel. So anything you can give, thank you in advance. Just click on the green button which says offer donation /Dana underneath the video, and that will give you a couple of options for how you can give. So that's all I need to say this morning. And it's over to you, Kyra Jewel.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And welcome to everyone. My heart feels always so warm when I get to join you and see your very friendly and warm messages rolling through the chat area. So thank you all for all of your love and care and kindness to each other. So welcome. Today I wanted to share a little bit about the practice of forgiveness. Just to let you know, sometimes I think, oh, I should plan out what I'm going to say for the whole week, or, have some kind of, but then I realize what I really like is just feeling into each day and wondering what might be the spontaneous thing that intuition leads me to each day. So I just let it come before each session. And today it's coming up as forgiveness. And something that I find very powerful to keep in our minds about forgiveness is that no matter what we've done, we can change our direction and be forgiven. We can forgive ourselves. We can allow ourselves to receive the forgiveness of whatever is larger than us that we experience as holding us. We can really experience that. So just checking that you all can hear me and see me. Just, yes, great, thank you. So I want to share a story about a Vietnam veteran, a U.S., a man from the U.S. who had fought in the war. Once again, in Vietnam, it's known as the American War. So it's all relative. Anyway, he during the 80s and early 90s, after the war, in Plum Village, France, where Thich Nhat Hanh started a practice center, they would host retreats for those who had been part of that war, for veterans. And there was a younger man who came, who was deeply troubled from his experiences in the war, and had a lot of suspicion and fear. Some of you may know of him. His name is Claude Anshin Thomas. He's now a Zen teacher and master. So he came and he pitched his tent far away from everyone. He was so afraid of, all these people in the Vietnamese cone hats, which reminded him of the Viet Cong, that were his enemies in the war. As a nun, we all wore these hats because they were really effective at keeping the sun off of our faces, and they were cool. Anyway, but he planted booby traps around his tent. That's how much fear he had. He had this, suspicion that he was being brought to this retreat and there would be an ambush. So he went through, I think it was a week or 2 weeks long. He came to the events, but he didn't share. He didn't say anything. And finally, they were able to organize a special session for him to share his story. And about 5 or 7 people, some were Vietnamese monastics, some were lay people. They just sat, and after it took him quite a while, they just sat in silence for him to begin to tell his story. But he told a story of being, 17 or 18, very young, sent off to war. And his whole unit was ambushed in the night. And he was the only one who survived. And he was extremely disturbed, as you can imagine. And so the next day, in revenge, he prepared sandwiches that had poison in them and put them at the entrance of the gate of the village. And he hid. And he watched 5 young children come out, find the sandwiches, and eat them. And then screaming, the parents tried to take them. There was no hospital nearby. The children died. So this veteran comes back. He comes back to the US, and he can't sleep. Ever since that time, he can't sleep. He's always woken up by nightmares. He can't even fall asleep. And he can't bear to be around children. Anytime he hears a child crying, or he has to leave immediately. And so he was terribly weighed down by the guilt of having killed those children. And he couldn't tell anyone. He only told his mother. And his mother said, well, those are the things that happen in war, my son. So it didn't really help him to find relief. So he lived this way for years, for probably a decade. And then he came on this retreat with Thich Nhat Hanh. So he was able to pour out this suffering, this terrible, tragic story. And as he shared, he expressed so much guilt and so much regret that he would never, be worthy of love because of this heinous act that he did, this very hateful, violent act of killing innocent children. And he said, I'll never be able to do anything worthwhile because of this. And so Thai listened to him. I'm sure it took a lot of mindfulness to listen and deep compassion. And he said to this man, he said, okay, you killed 5 children. That's a fact. And he said, but you can save many more children. Right now, he said, there are children dying in developing countries all over the world just because they lack one pill, one malaria pill, one, bit of milk. He said, there's so many children starving who aren't getting enough nutrition. You can help them. You can keep them alive now. Yes, what you did was wrong, but you don't have to be stuck in the past. You can live now in a way that can save thousands of children's lives. And he offered him a way forward, that his life didn't have to be condemned because of this action, and that healing is possible. We can forgive ourselves. We can use the preciousness of our life to bring a balance to what we've done in the past. And he did that. And he got trained in a different Zen tradition, and he leads peace walks with, groups of people through Auschwitz and places of healing. He's gone back to Vietnam. He's been part of bringing healing to the victims, the survivors of war in Vietnam. His whole life is about healing and transformation. He's written a beautiful book. I don't have the name of it in my head. If someone else does, please share it. But his name is Claude Anshin Thomas. And he has a book all about his story. So this is a quote from Brian Stevenson. Some of you may know Brian Stevenson, an African-American lawyer in the United States. He started the Equal Justice Initiative. It's an amazing organization in Montgomery, Alabama, in the South of the United States, which works to free people from death row. I know many countries in Europe are enlightened about the death penalty and don't have it, but unfortunately in our country, my country that I'm from, the United States, there's still the death penalty. And his organization, the Equal Justice Initiative, works to take on people's cases that have been where there was a miscarriage of justice. There's so many innocent people on death row. It's found that 1 in 9 people are innocent. This is after they've been executed. People look through the files and discover it's so clear this person didn't do this crime. And of course, majority of people on death row are poor and people of color. So there's grave injustice in the so-called justice system. So his work is to take on these cases and also to get children that are being put in prison out of jail. So he's working to bring about more justice. So this is something that he says. I'm glad some of you know about him. I've come to understand and to believe that each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. I believe that for every person on the planet, we are more than the worst thing we've ever done. He says, I think if somebody tells a lie, they are not just a liar. If someone takes something that doesn't belong to them, they're not just a thief. And if you kill someone, you're not just a killer. And because of that, there's this basic human dignity that must be respected by law. So each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. Yeah. So we can really condemn ourselves. We can really condemn others by these actions. And it just doesn't take into account the transformation that's possible, like this story of Claude and Shin Thomas. And thank you to who shared At Hell's Gate, A Soldier's Journey. That's the book by Claude and Shin Thomas. Thank you so much. So everyone can transform. If the seeds are watered in their consciousness, wholesome seeds will sprout, and unwholesome action will be will have to give way to the wholesome that's taking its place. So our minds are organic, our brains are plastic, meaning they can change even physically in their structure according to how we use our minds. If we practice, we can change everything. So this forgiveness meditation that we're going to do is a practice of encouraging ourselves to release these condemning beliefs that keep us boxed in, that keep others boxed in and confined to the worst thing we've ever done or to the worst thing they've ever done. We are so much more than that, and we can become so much more than that in the right circumstances. So this is a meditation by Stephen Levine, and we'll make a link to it with the recording of this class today, so you can also use it in your own time. So finding a position that's comfortable and relaxing for you, sitting or lying or standing. Maybe just calling to mind this story we've just heard of this very young boy, very vulnerable, thrown into a horrible life situation that caused the worst in him to come up and to be expressed. And the great suffering he caused, and also the great suffering that he carried in him after that hateful act. And then how, in a situation of compassion, of forgiveness, of deep understanding and wisdom, he was able to realize another way was possible and dedicate his life to healing, to transforming violence in himself and in the world. So just noticing what comes up in your heart, in your body, as you reflect on that story, that profound example of the power of forgiveness. And just let that be with you as we practice this meditation together. And I just want to say at the start, I don't want you to do anything you're not ready to do today. I'm not going to ask you to forgive the worst thing that's ever happened to you. We're going to go very gently and slowly, and you can stop at any time. And you don't have to do this meditation today. If you are feeling, you know what, this isn't what I need right now, I'm not ready to forgive, I don't want to forgive, that's perfectly fine. You can be with your breath, you can be with your body, you can just touch into the goodness of this community, and you have full permission to do this or not. It's really in your choice. So we never want to force this practice. So as you allow your body to come to settling, to opening, to just being here in this moment, feeling the support of the earth, and letting your body rest back into the support of the earth. I invite you to slowly bring to mind, bring into your heart, the image of someone for whom you have some resentment. Maybe not the biggest resentment, but starting small. We'll gently allow a picture, a feeling, a sense of them to come into awareness. And just for this moment, gently inviting them into your heart, this person that you feel resentment toward. And notice whatever fear or anger may arise to limit or deny their entrance. And soften gently all around that fear, that anger. So no force. Just an experiment in checking out the capacity of your heart, which may be able to invite this person in. And silently in your heart, say to this person, I forgive you. Open to a sense of their presence and say, I forgive you for whatever pain you may have caused me in the past, intentionally or unintentionally, through your words, your thoughts, your actions. However you may have caused me pain in the past, I forgive you. Feel for even a moment the spaciousness relating to that person with the possibility of forgiveness. Letting go of the walls, the curtains of resentment, so that your heart may be free, so that your life may be lighter. I forgive you for whatever you may have done that caused me pain, intentionally or unintentionally, through your actions, through your words, even through your thoughts, through whatever you did, through whatever you didn't do. However the pain came to me through you, I forgive you. I forgive you. It's so painful to put someone out of your heart. Let go of that pain. Let them be touched, for this moment at least, with the warmth of your forgiveness. I forgive you. I forgive you. Allow that person to just be there in the stillness, in the warmth and patience of the heart. Let them be forgiven. Let the distance between you dissolve in mercy and compassion. Let it be so. Now, having finished so much business, dissolved in forgiveness, allow this being to go on their way. Not pushing or pulling them from the heart, but simply letting them be on their way, touched by a blessing and the possibility of your forgiveness. So gently giving yourself whatever time is necessary. Allow this person to dissolve in your awareness as you now turn to invite another in. This time, bring into your mind, into your heart, the image, the sense of someone who has resentment for you. Someone whose heart is closed to you. Notice whatever limits their entrance and soften all around that hardness. Let it float. Mercifully invite them into your heart and say to them, I ask your forgiveness. I ask your forgiveness. I ask to be let back into your heart, that you forgive me for whatever I may have done in the past that caused you pain. Intentionally or unintentionally, through my words, my actions, even through my thoughts. However I may have hurt or injured you, whatever confusion, whatever fear of mind caused you pain, I ask your forgiveness. Allow yourself to be touched by their forgiveness. By the possibility of forgiveness. Allow yourself to be forgiven. Have mercy on you. Have mercy on them. Allow them to forgive you. Feel their forgiveness touch you. Receive it. Draw it into your heart. I ask your forgiveness for however I may have caused you pain in the past, through my anger, through my lust, through my fear, my ignorance, my blindness, my doubt, my confusion. However I may have caused you pain, I ask that you let me back into your heart. I ask your forgiveness. Let it be. Allow yourself to be forgiven. If the mind attempts to block forgiveness with merciless indictments, recriminations, judgments, just see the nature of the unkind mind. Notice how merciless we can be with ourselves. And let this judging, unkind mind be touched by the warmth and patience of forgiveness. Let your heart open so that it may receive forgiveness, so that it may feel whole again. Let it be. And now gently say goodbye to this person, and with a blessing, let them be on their way, having even for a millisecond shared the one heart beyond the confusion of seemingly separate minds. Letting them release. And in this final part of the practice, we turn towards ourselves with forgiveness. So gently turning to yourself in your own heart and offering the words, I forgive you, to yourself. It's so painful to put ourselves out of our hearts. If you can, say, I forgive you, to yourself. Calling out to yourself in your heart, using your own first name, say, I forgive you. If the mind interposes with hard thoughts, such as that it's self-indulgent to forgive oneself, if it judges, if it reacts with anger and unkindness, feel that hardness and let it soften at the edge. Let it be touched by forgiveness. Allow yourself back into your heart. Allow you to be forgiven by you. Let the world back into your heart. Allow yourself to be forgiven. Let that forgiveness fill your whole body. Feel the warmth and care that wishes your own well-being. Seeing yourself as if you were your only child, let yourself be bathed by this mercy and kindness. Let yourself be loved. See your forgiveness forever awaiting your return to your own heart, waiting for you to come home so it can wrap you in a warm and loving cloak of forgiveness, of unconditional love. The tendency to be unkind to ourselves, to show no mercy, let it go. Allow yourself to embrace all of you with forgiveness. Know that in this moment you are wholly and completely forgiven. It's already done. Now it's just up to you to allow it in. Seeing yourself in the infinitely compassionate eyes of the Buddha, in the sacred heart of Jesus, in the warm embrace of the Goddess, in the loving smile of any spiritual teacher or figure that resonates with you, the universal mind. Let yourself be loved. Let yourself be love. And now, opening to share this miracle of forgiveness, of mercy and awareness. Let it extend out to all the people around you, everyone on this call together. Let all be touched by the power of forgiveness. Everyone in your home, in your community, in your country, in the world. All those beings who have also known such pain, who have so often put themselves and others out of their hearts, who have so often felt isolated and so lost, who have been caught in just situations which led to their downfall. Touch them with your forgiveness, with your mercy and loving kindness, that they too may be healed just as you wish to be. Feel the heart we all share, filled with forgiveness, so that we all might be whole. Let the mercy keep radiating outward until it encompasses the whole planet floating in your heart, in mercy, in loving kindness, in care. May all beings be freed from their suffering, their anger, their confusion, their fear, their doubt. May all beings know the joy of their true nature. May all beings' hearts open and minds be clear. May all beings be at peace. Letting yourself sense into your body, just noticing what's here. And taking a few breaths mindfully, bringing awareness back into our space together, gently transitioning, opening your eyes if you had them closed, bringing in any movement, if that helps to bring attention and awareness back into the body. And we now have some time for sharing, for questions. You're welcome to share anything you experienced in the chat from the meditation. And then if you have a question, you can put it in the Ask a Question area. So Caroline asks, I just want to say thank you for your practice to everyone. I know this is not always the easiest practice to do, so I appreciate anyone who decided to give it a try. Deep bows of appreciation to you. Whether you tried it or not, I bow to you, to your wisdom, knowing that this is something you should do or something you shouldn't do. In all cases, deep respect. So this is a question from Caroline. I have trouble to forgive because it gives me the feeling of considering myself better than the person that I forgive, of putting myself above this other person. Maybe the word forgive bothers me, linked to some religious dogma. Thank you, Caroline. It's really important to find the words that work for us. And I can understand what you mean by somehow it can feel condescending that, oh, I forgive you for hurting me, because that puts you, it could lead you to feel like you're on a higher level than they are. One way I'll give you some other words than forgive. So my father used to teach forgiveness and unconditional love and forgiveness in the tradition of psychosynthesis. And it was based on his teacher, Edith Stauffer, who was trained by Roberto Assagioli, the founder of psychosynthesis, who was a contemporary of Freud. In any case, the work of Edith Stauffer was based on the Essenes, the people of the historical Jesus, and their understandings in the Essene language. And so the way they talked about forgiveness was canceling expectations. So canceling the expectation that you would have done this, or canceling the expectation that I would have, acted or not acted in a certain way. So I don't know if that helps to maybe let go of the word to forgive. And yes, if it has those religious connotations, like we ask God to forgive us, and that's in certain religious traditions a very hierarchical relationship of little us, big God up here. So you can totally understand how that would be that sense of superiority could get invoked with that word. So see how it feels to use canceling the expectations. Another beautiful word, retranslation of words, since we're on this topic, in the Essene language, the word we use in English for sin, S-I-N, was understood as missing the mark, much less heavy. We all miss the mark sometime, right? So maybe you can hold that in mind too when you think of forgiving someone else or canceling your expectations of how they should have been different. You could see what they've done as simply missing the mark. And if they, could have done better, if they could have hit it on the mark, they would have, but they didn't have the capacity to, so they missed the mark. So I hope that's helpful for your question, Caroline. And this is a question from Luke. I understand what forgiving means as a word, but it has no reality, no materiality for me. What is forgiveness? What does it feel? I am in trouble inviting something I don't know what it is like or feel. Yes. Thank you for this question, Luke. Sometimes the words can really get in the way, as Carolyn's question pointed out. I suppose the closest I could share about how it feels, which may be something you felt also, Luke, is letting go, So there's a story, I really like this story of a man in a boat on this river, and there's a very thick fog. It's, one of those early mornings, you can't see anything. And out of the blue, another boat hits this man's boat. And he gets so angry. And he says, are you crazy? How could you just knock into me? And then the fog clears as this other boat gets closer, and he sees the boat is empty. There's nobody in the boat. So his anger vanishes because he realizes nobody was trying to do anything to him. It's not exactly forgiveness, but it's this sense of releasing when you understand, well, the way I thought this wasn't the way it really was. Or the way I was taking this personally was not intended, was not meant for me personally. It was just life happening. So it's this sense of releasing, of putting something heavy down because it doesn't serve us anymore. There's a beautiful teaching that says keeping our anger at someone else is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. And so we have this mistaken understanding sometimes that if we keep our resentment towards someone, that they'll be punished by it. But actually, we're the ones punishing ourselves. As long as we hold on to our resentment, our judgment, our blame, we're cutting ourselves off from love that is always wanting to flow through us. So we're the first person that benefits from forgiveness. So I hope that gives some sense of what this is. Look, and I can really appreciate what you're saying about how it's not something you can touch. And I just encourage you to stay open, stay patient, and know that your heart does know what forgiveness is, and that at some point when it's ready, it will be more accessible to you. So, yeah. My shares, I have been told that others are not responsible for my hurt. I alone am responsible for my feeling. Have I misunderstood? Thank you for this question, Mai. So we are the first cause of our experience. Other people are the secondary cause. So an image is of a Coke machine or a, juice machine to be healthier, a vending machine where you put in money and you hit a button and then you choose and that thing comes down. Well, if the vending machine is out of the juice or the snack that you want, no matter how much money you put in, how many times you press the button, you won't get that to come out. So it's the same with us. If we have, if we've been cultivating a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, or a lot of fear, then it's very easy for someone to push that button and our fear will come out. But if we are practicing in such a way that when fear arises in us, we recognize it, we hold it, we don't let it take us over, then even if someone pushes that button and does all manner of things to try to scare us or intimidate us, or all manner of things to disgrace us, if that energy isn't something that we let take us over, then it doesn't come out of the vending machine. It doesn't cause us suffering. So if our mind is really clear and balanced and calm and steady, it doesn't mean we're not human and we don't feel hurt, right? But it means that we have some choice over how we respond, even if someone, is acting in the most deeply hurtful and insulting way. We still don't have to take that in as a reflection of who we are. We can see very clearly that that's a reflection of their own suffering and that it's not who we are. So there's a story of the Buddha who was assaulted basically by a man who just hurled insults at the Buddha, just the worst kinds of words and insults. He was very angry at the Buddha. And the Buddha did not reply in kind, of course. And the Buddha just said to the man, if someone gives you a gift and you don't receive the gift, who does the gift belong to? And the man said, to the person who tried to give it to you. And the Buddha said, exactly. So when you pour insults on me, if I don't take that gift, if I don't take it in, then it's yours. It still belongs to you. And so no matter what other people do, if we don't take that gift, if we don't, accept that that's the reality, that we have to join in with them, but we stay in our own understanding. It doesn't mean we don't take people's criticisms. If there's something that we need to look at in ourselves, we want to look at that. We don't just ignore what other people are saying. But if we see that they're very mistaken and insulting us, we don't need to receive that and buy into that. So I hope that's responding to your question, Mai. I'll do one more question. We're at time already. So Doro asks, when we're widening forgiveness to all the world, I had trouble with feeling acceptance and forgiveness for politicians and polluters. It felt like letting go of my anger would mean passivity. Thank you so much for this question. I think it's a very important question because it's easy to think that forgiveness means anything goes, that if I forgive you, then I won't stand up to you and say no to you. But that's actually not what forgiveness means. In this practice of, inviting everyone to be forgiven, it doesn't mean that then they have the right to pollute or to, create suffering for others in their leadership roles as politicians. We can forgive people and still say no to them harming others. So we can, the purpose of forgiveness is to clear ourselves from whatever obstacle is there between us and love and insight and wisdom flowing through us, and to help us see the situation clearly. So if we can really look into, there's this phrase, this quote from William Wadsworth Longfellow that says, if we could read the secret histories of our enemies, we wouldn't have enemies, basically. I can't remember exactly the last bit of the quote, but if we could read the secret histories of the politicians, of the polluters, we would see, then here's the second part. We would see sorrow enough to melt, any heart. We would see that there's a reason why they're doing these things, and that might give us insight into the best way to respond to the situation, so that we could figure out how to help end the suffering without putting them out of our hearts. But it doesn't mean when we forgive them that, we just are a doormat and they can do whatever they want. We actually have more strength, more force to say no when we're coming from a place of no hatred, of no violence inside of ourselves. Because if we have violence and hatred, even if we stop them from doing what they're doing, we're going to keep perpetuating that violence and hatred in some other way. So it won't really be healed in the root of where this problem comes from. But if we can forgive them for the ignorance that's there in them, causing them to do these very harmful actions, we have more energy, more clarity to put our action right where it's going to really make more of a difference. So we're not fighting the person, we're fighting, a process that allowed this to come about. Because these politicians, these polluters didn't come out of nowhere. They came out of many people putting greed over the well-being of the planet, the well-being of people. So these individual politicians, individual polluters, they're not alone the problem. They're supported by a whole system that's unjust, a whole system that tells us we need to exploit in order to be okay, and that we're not connected with all other things on the planet. So they're, in a way, they're victims of this larger system as well. So lots more to share about all that, but let's close here. And again, I remind you there's the Dana button below this video. If you can offer something to support Sangha Live, to support the teacher and the teachings, that's most welcome, and we're deeply grateful for that. So I wish you well. May we continue to explore the power of forgiveness today. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Many blessings.